So I'm actually a little bit surprised, but the video I posted about the helicopter got over 1,000 views in one day, which is kind of pathetic. Although that does do better than even my As a True videos. I thought my As a True videos did the best at getting getting attention from crazy people. Now, people might wonder. Now, what was funny is some person did say something very interesting in the comments section. They could be investigating the power lines for any abnormalities, inspecting them. I did call the Transportation Authority to check into that. They didn't know of any such thing, but that could just mean that I got a hold of somebody that didn't care about what I was saying. So that's a possibility. Now, the question is, am I crazy? What I want to make people understand is I do not portray myself as the all-knowing, end-all, be-all of knowledge, okay, like some people might think I do. I'm not Frank Tufano. I'm not as well-educated as Frank Tufano, obviously. But the point is, what led me to believe I was a victim of gang stalking, okay, and I'm not saying that's what this is. However, this one instance does not explain 3 other times that helicopters have done things like literally follow the car I was in, land in the parking lot of my apartment complex for no reason, things of that nature, over the course of 3 years. And actually before that, the one where it landed in the apartment complex was way back when, during the Obama administration. I didn't think anything of it. I just thought it was odd. Why do so many helicopters fly so low in my area? What it is when I came to the conclusion that something weird was up, and I did mention this a bunch of years ago, I started getting friend requests from random women on Facebook that were telling me I was a victim of gang stalking. Apparently there's in the gang stalking community, there are targeted individuals and there are gang stalkers, which sounds bizarre. And when I looked into what gang stalking was, of course, I thought everything was crazy until I realized, the harassment I was receiving on YouTube by people. And mind you, I am a whistleblower. Whistleblowers are my former employer. I'm a whistleblower on my former employer. So I'm starting to piece things together. I thought everything was separate. And then, of course, I was going for a walk every morning. And I thought, honestly, because I was having so much trouble with my former employer, that they had hired a private detective to get dirt on me. Which I didn't care. I would just walk. Doesn't bother me. I majored in criminal justice. I know about criminal justice. I wanted to be a private investigator. What it was is I would go for a walk at the one park near where I lived at the time, and a gentleman in a car would literally take pictures of me with a camera, which I thought, yeah, that's got to be a private investigator, because every normal person now uses a regular cell phone, and they would write things in a notebook as I would walk around. And then after such amount of time of that, and I didn't even notice this the first month, because I'm not crazy. And that's the thing, is it makes you a little bit crazy when you start putting things together. I would leave the park after so many laps. This was when I was starting out to get healthy again. And I would walk down the street and through the neighborhood, and at the same stop sign every morning was a car that looked exactly like the car that would park in the park, that would then follow me X amount of time, and then I started noticing it. When I started noticing it, I would start walking different directions, and the car would follow me. I wanted to make sure that the car actually was following me, because I thought it might be just somebody that had just dropped their kid off at the school bus, even though the timing didn't make sense. So what I want to point out, and then of course my apartment, what was interesting about my apartment, I'll never forget, when I first moved in that last year, I had a number of pornographic movies and popcorn taken from my apartment. I had just moved in. They were on the living room floor, and they were missing for about a week. And then what was funny about it, the popcorn has still never come back. I don't know where the popcorn is. But they were under my kitchen sink, which they couldn't have been for a week because, you know, you go under your kitchen sink for things. I would have noticed the DVD player and that's what it was, a DVD player, pornographic movies, and a and a thing of popcorn, like which I thought was hilarious. Not, you know, the kind of popcorn you make on the stove. So that was one of many things. And then about 3 months into living there, I heard somebody trying to get into my apartment with a key. And I answered the door, and it was a white chick had opened my door. And when I heard them coming in, I just stood at the door waiting because I was ready to, you know, defend my property. It was some chick, like some white chick, that goes, "Oh my God, I'm sorry," and then ran away. And I was on the phone with somebody at the time because I thought it was hilarious. I'm like, wait, this is definitely happening. So I go to the office. I got my locks changed. Now, that did stop a great deal of the stuff that was happening with my apartment when I got my locks changed and put in an alarm system. So I go to the office and I explain. Now, I want to remind everybody, I have this many white neighbors. This many. I don't have any white neighbors. None. Everybody's Hispanic, East Indian, or black, predominantly black in the neighborhood that I live in. So it clearly was not any of my neighbors. So when I told the young lady in the office who was Hispanic, you know, I got somebody trying to get into my apartment with a key. Do you think it was the person that used to live there? I mean, I'm not crazy. I was thinking perhaps the person that used to live there got kicked out. Maybe they're looking for a place to stay the night, what have you. So they obviously she was very concerned because, as she stated, you know, you don't have any white neighbors. And I was like, yeah, I know. I don't know who the young lady was, but they clearly had a key because they used it to open my locked door. And what it was is, the more I looked into the gang stalking, the more you see that these people will go into your apartment, move things around, try and make you think that you're crazy. So I'm not easily shaken. I'm just not an easily shaken person. I'm hypervigilant. I have hypervigilance, but there's a difference between hypervigilance and paranoia. Hypervigilance will save your life. Paranoia will cause you to freeze or act erratically. I'm not a very easily shaken up person. I'm more than capable of taking care of myself. So as you start putting everything together, putting the online harassment together with the people that were telling me I was a victim of gang stalking originally, who I thought were crazy. So you put the people that are telling you you're a victim of gang stalking together with the fact that there's the online harassment, which was attempted to make it look like a person that I was friends with had people harassing me. Okay, that was not the case because it didn't add up. They were claiming to know things, and they did know things about her, but they didn't seem to know enough about her to make it real, if you know what I'm saying. But they also knew things about me and my personal life. Now, this friend of mine lives on the literally the other side of the world. So if these are her neighbors and her friends, they're not going to know what I did in my personal life, okay? Because Argentina is quite a ways away from where I live in Pennsylvania. It's on the other side of the world. In fact, right now it's winter time here, it's summertime there. So I started putting everything together and realizing, now in reality, all of these things could be separate incidences. So that's the thing, is it really starts when you start putting everything together. Now the helicopter thing, where does that come in? I watched a documentary from Vice on gang stalking, and somebody mentioned the gang stalking helicopters. I was like, wow, this goes back to when the women were telling me, the women on Facebook that had friended me on Facebook, that that's actually the kicker back when I was started investigating this, and I'm like, yeah, this stuff's nuts. This isn't happening. It's not real. And then you start putting everything together. Now, Dr. Grande made a video about it, and Dr. Grande is a doctor of psychology. Now, I don't really care what somebody's degree in psychology means, because I do consider psychology more or less to be a phony, fake science, like phrenology or palmistry. I think phrenology might actually have some reality in it, but I consider psychology to be a baloney science. I don't think it's and in fact, I know it's not a real science due to the lack of scrutiny in data collection and the lack of scrutiny in the replicability. You have to replicate scientific research for it to be considered science, meaning if this person produces this result, it should be reproduced 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 times, 10 times when you're reproducing it in other laboratories. That's not how psychology works due to the subjectivity of the selection process, the subjectivity of the experiments, and it's just subjective. It's not objective. For psychology to be a science, it must be objective, and it's not. But what's interesting is Dr. Grande pointed out how gangstalking is a phenomenon of persecutory delusions, group persecutory delusions. I don't believe that. I believe that in some cases that definitely is the case, but I do believe that a lot of people that have said what was happening to them, including somebody that was an anti-pharma activist that ended up dead through mysterious causes, though it's recorded that she died of natural causes, and I have no reason to doubt that she died of natural causes. I'm not saying she was killed by gang stalkers. But the thing is that the marked similarities between these people, it seems to not necessarily be made up. It seems to be too similar. So I think what you have going on here, and like I said, I think the people doing this to me are people that have, because it correlated to me when I would point out the ridiculousness of my former employer and how harmful they are to society with what they're doing. Especially online, the online harassment would go through the roof. But also things would start happening at my apartment and things like that, until, of course, I got the locks changed and what have you. So I think what you have is basically it's organized bullying. It's high school bullying for adults. You have groups of people that do both online and in-person bullying. And that's basically what's going on. It's a group of people that have a lack of ego. They don't have sufficient ego strength. So they have to work together to belong to a group to strengthen their own sense of self, and their sense of self is strengthened by the group identity, but not any sense of individual self. And I know what people are saying. Didn't you just say psychology was baloney? I said psychology isn't a science, and I don't believe psychology is a science. I believe psychology is a philosophy. Philosophy can be helpful. In fact, science is philosophy. The only difference between science and other philosophies is science can be proven true for the most part. It can be proven to be physically true. It correlates to physical reality. That's what makes science science. Okay, but philosophy can be very helpful. As people know, I'm a huge fan of Ayn Rand and Friedrich Nietzsche and Baruch Spinoza. In fact, a lot of people that claim I'm anti-Semitic, I say I can't be anti-Semitic. All of my favorite philosophers are Jewish. You have Baruch Spinoza, you have the dude that created cosmodeism, you have Ayn Rand. I mean, a lot of the people Ray Kurzweil, I would consider him a philosopher, I'm heavy duty into these Jewish philosophers. I'm just saying, I mean, if I was anti-Semitic, I couldn't be into all these Jewish philosophers. But my point is, ultimately my point is, I'm amazed that a video that was a few seconds long about a frickin' helicopter got that many views, when my other videos get next to none, except the True videos. The True videos do get a lot of views. The thing about the True videos that I like is I do also get hate speech. I get death threats in the comments section, and I would prefer that in the helicopter video. And that's all for this video.